Hey Farm Hands, Camille from Chicken Scratch and Sniff. Today we're going to talk about President Nelson's main address in the October 2021 General Conference, which is the Temple in Your Spiritual Foundation. It is a fabulous talk. I went through so many times and took so many notes, it's kind of ridiculous. But the point is, if you're not getting what you need out of this, go back and read it again. You're going to find something else, I promise. A couple of notes before we jump in is remember to look at the footnotes for President Nelson's talks. So in a lot of the he quotes a few things in his talks, and he just quotes like a line or two of it. But if you go to the footnotes, it shows you the whole quote. Well, a longer quote, right? And they're fabulous. So be sure to look at those. Also, remember our private Facebook group is where we really can discuss more of these talks in greater details with other teachers or people studying them on their own. So be sure you come and join our private Facebook group. Beth has shared some great ideas already for this talk, and I really loved that she is teaching this lesson first with her Release Society, and then every talk thereafter, every time they teach after, they're going to point back to it and talk about how it strengthens our spiritual foundations, which I think is such a beautiful idea, and I'm totally going to use it in our Release Society. So keep sharing your ideas on there and questions. Obviously, you can discuss these in other places as well if you don't do Facebook, but that has really been a great resource throughout the years, and it continues to be so. So be sure to check it out if you can. Okay, so remember, we're going to go over 3 points or 3 things that you can learn in this talk, as well as 3 questions. And then there's 3 quotes that I share on Facebook and on Instagram that you're welcome to save and share with your groups or text them to your children, whatever you want to use them, okay? So first one is line upon line. So President Nelson really teaches line upon line, just like the Lord does, right? Great pattern to follow. So there's a lot in this talk where you might not quite understand something. It's because you need to take a step back and maybe go back to one of his other talks because they really have built upon each other. So for example, 2019 October, it was when he encouraged the women to really understand priesthood power. And again, that's a little bit tied into this talk. 2020 of April, there was that restoration proclamation and how we need to more intentionally hear him, hear the Lord. October 2020, let God prevail and make a list of all the Lord has promised to do for covenant Israel. So we talk about those covenants and those promises in this talk a little bit. In April 2021, he talked about clearing out the spiritual debris in our foundations in his welcome message. And again, now we have this whole talk on our spiritual foundations. So they really have built upon each other. And so if there's something that you want to learn more about or you're just not getting, maybe go back and study those other talks before you can really get more out of this talk. And that also applies to our lives. We learn line upon line. That's the way the Lord teaches us. So if there's something that you're struggling with in your life, maybe we need to take a step back and take that smaller step before we can take that bigger leap. So what is it that you're missing in between that might help you take the next step? Even though it feels really small, it is probably really important. Okay. There's another thing that you could do. You know, President Nelson's always encouraging us to be an engaged learner. And so this talk is all about temples. So you could take the time to study more about temples in the Bible, and other General Conference talks. Footnote 7 has a great list of scriptures that you could start with in your study about temples. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, number 2. The pioneers did their best with their tools. I loved the video that he shows, right? And he talks and he praises the pioneers in their work, and it is incredible in the Salt Lake Temple, right? It's amazing what they were able to do. And so they did the best with the tools that they had and the things that they knew how to do, and then the Lord added to it, right? But now we have better tools. We know more. And so it's now our obligation to use those and improve the temple, right? We also have that obligation in our own lives, right? To do the best that we can, and then the Lord will help us, right? But it's also our obligation to keep progressing. That's what the plan is. It's all about progressing, right? And so I love the quote from his talk, Ongoing Restoration Needs an Ongoing Revelation, okay? And so it is with us. So let's be open to change, keep the temple at the center of our lives, and make sure that we're using the tools that we have to the best of our abilities, and then being open to the next level of tools and applying that to our lives as well. Okay. Number 3, look at what the Lord wants for us. I love that President Nelson says, this is what the Lord wants for you. And then he makes a list. Okay. So go through that list and ponder what that means for you. So, summary wise, these are quick 4 points. Understand with clarity your covenants, experience the ordinances fully, comprehend your privileges, promises, and responsibilities, and then enjoy spiritual insights and awakenings as never before. Amazing things that the Lord wants for us as a church and as personally, okay? For you personally. So how is the Lord helping you with this? So, and what are we doing to stay open to those new things? The Lord wants to direct his church, and he wants to direct our lives personally. We just have to be open for it. And so, you know how every general conference, if you come prepared with questions and you come prepared to be open and to listen and to have the Holy Ghost with you, you take away very personal messages for you. And that's how we have to approach the temple, so that we can have very personal messages for us as well, even though what we do in the temple is fairly similar every single time, right? And even though the Lord wants these 4 things for all of us, the way that he will help us get those 4 things are going to be very individual. So how are we going to allow and see those things in our lives, and what changes is the Lord helping us make so that these things happen already? Okay. 3 questions. Number 1, of course you have to ask this question when we're talking about our spiritual foundations, is how firm is your foundation? And that's such a great song, and I'm sure you could incorporate it. If you're doing a lesson or a study, you could study those verses in all kinds of great ways. But what needs reinforcement? And I really would encourage you to even make a list. Like, you could draw it on the board or in your notes or whatever of a foundation. And what are your strengths? Start with your strengths. Recognize them. Pray to the Lord and help him see your strengths, and write them down. And be happy about those strengths, right? To build upon those strengths. But then also take the time to write down maybe where the gaps are, or some erosions happening, some of your weaknesses, right? And then turn to the Lord and let him show you how to make them into strengths. Whatever new ways that we need to do that, okay? So you could talk about those things. Also, what spiritual earthquakes look like. And then after an earthquake, what do we usually need to do? We usually have to then go back and strengthen it again. And so what does that mean for our personal lives? What does that mean for a building? And you can kind of compare those things. And even tie in October 2020, President Nelson's talk, where we always should be preparing. We always need to be strengthening our spiritual foundations. Okay. Question number 2, ponder and discuss the 3 truths President Nelson mentions. I really loved those ones as well. And you could definitely study them further in the scriptures and write a lot about them in your notes, or do groups or whatever you want to do. So the 3 truths are the restoration is an ongoing process. Number 2, the point of gathering is to go to the temple, right? And number 3, the Lord gives ongoing revelation, right? So what does that mean as a whole, as a church? But what does that mean to you personally? These 3 truths, how does that affect your lives? What does that mean to you every single day of your life? What difference does that make? Okay. Number 3, I loved this quote, and he kind of says it in a few different ways. Unprecedented times require, well, I'm not going to actually quote it directly. So unprecedented times require unprecedented measures. So we must try new things, okay? And this is a really great one to spend some time on, because as we brainstorm with each other, you can see new things, because what has worked before isn't necessarily going to work now, or isn't the best way to go about it now. It could work a little bit still, but it just won't be the best way to do it. So we need to take it a step further and use extraordinary measures. So what are we not doing? How can we approach things differently in our callings, in our daily lives, in our service, in our temple attendance, in our repentance, in our forgiveness, etc. And all those aspects, look at everything, re-examine it with the Lord's help, and what that means for us, and how we can go about things in brand new ways. I loved how President Nelson has been re-examining that and has showed us already the things that he has changed, been prompted to change, because he's re-examining things, right? And so what are we kind of stuck at in our lives, and how can we re-examine that and change it in the Lord's way to make it better? And then he mentions, so that when the devil sends for his mighty wind, it will have no effect on us. Love that. So think about those things, brainstorm with each other, and learn more. All right, make sure you get those 3 quotes as well. Continue to study and ponder. And like I said, there's so much in this talk. So if you don't like these points, go back and find more, because there are more. See you guys later.